How's it going, guys? Welcome back to another exciting video. In the last video, we implemented functionality for checking whether a user is authenticated and also for loading the user profile. And then in this video, the goal is just going to be to work on the user dashboard and give the user functionality to update their profile. So we've already implemented functionality in the back end for doing this. So now we're going to implement this on the front end so that the user themselves can also update their profile. So I have my database running right now, and let me zoom in a bit. And then I'm going to navigate into my backend, activate my virtual environment, and then run my server. And then I'm going to have another terminal open where I'm just going to be in my front end, and from here I can build my project. All right, so first thing I'm going to work on is creating some dispatch types. So I'm going to need some dispatch types for checking if our updating of the profile succeeded or failed. So I'm going to copy these two, put them here, and then I'm going to have, instead of load, I'm going to do update. So update user profile success and update user profile fail. So these are going to be our dispatch states. And then I'm going to create the action creator. So update user profile success and update user profile fail. I'm going to bring these two in. And then right below, there we go. So right below, I'm going to actually go ahead and create this action creator. So export const update profile. That's what I'm going to call it. Async dispatch. And then in here, we're going to have the functionality to update the profile. So I'm going to need some headers. So I'm just going to copy the ones for our load user, put them in here so we don't have to retype a lot of this stuff. And then we need some additional headers. So we will need this accept header. We're going to need the content type. And we're going to need the CSRF Token header. And this is going to be cookies.get CSRF Token. And then I'm also going to need a body. So const body is, const body, there we go. JSON.stringify. And we're going to do with credentials. Credentials, did I spell that right? Credentials, yep. And that's going to be true. So we're going to pass along this header with our CSRF token, and we're going to pass along our credentials because we're going to be making a put request. I'm going to need a try catch for when we make our API request. So I'm going to store the response inside of this variable. And then this is going to be equal to await axios.put because we have a put request, and then process.env.react app API URL, which is just localhost 8000. And then our path is profile/update. That's our endpoint. And then in here, I have to pass that body and that config. All right, so now let's take a look at this API endpoint. So this is under user profile, views. And basically, if this succeeds, we're going to get back a JSON response that's going to have our profile object. What is going on here? Okay, we're going to have a profile object, and we're going to have our username object. So these are the two pieces of data we get back. If we don't get these two pieces of data, we know this request failed. So I'm going to go ahead and check for that. So if response.data.profile and response.data.username, if these two things exist, then I know that this succeeded. So then I'm going to dispatch a type of update profile success. And as the payload, I'm going to have response.data. Now, if we didn't get these two objects passed back, then we know this failed. So dispatch And then the type is going to be update user profile fail. And then if anything went wrong here, then also we're going to dispatch this fail state. So now we have an action creator in place to do this. So now let's work on the reducer. So we're going to open up reducers, profile.js. Going to bring in those two dispatch states. So the success and the fail. And then right below, I'm going to work on these. So case update user profile success. Going to return our state. And then the data that we're getting back is going to be the exact same as this load profile or load user profile success. So in our payload, we're going to have that username object. Then we're also going to have the profile object, which is going to contain the first name, last name, phone, and city. So I can just go ahead and copy all of these and paste them in here. Or better yet, so I'm not repeating code, I can just cut this and just put it here. Because these two dispatch states will update my state the exact same. So I might as well just have them here and then save a few lines of code. And then in the case of a fail, so update user profile fail, I can just return my state. So the state will not change if this fails. And the reason why I want to do that is because let's say if I load the user profile and get these fields, what if I try to update it and something goes wrong? I don't want these fields to be wiped out then. I just want them to remain unchanged so we still have our user profile fields present. So that's why I'm going to handle it this way. All right, so that's our action creator and our reducer in place. So now let's work on the dashboard. So I'm going to close up these folders, containers, dashboard, and let's start working on our dashboard. So I know I'm going to need the connect helper from React Redux. I'm going to wrap this dashboard in our connect helper. And then in here, I'm going to have a form where I'm going to be able to update the user profile. So I'm also going to need use state. And because I'm going to be using hooks, I need this to be a capital letter. And then also, I'm not just going to be returning JSX. So I'm going to use the curly braces. And then for now, I'm just going to return a div. So we already did a lot of this form stuff with the login and register page. So I can just copy some of this stuff to make this go a little bit quicker. So this form data, this destructuring, on change, on submit, this is all stuff that we've already written code for. So just so we don't have to retype it all, I'm just going to paste it in here and then we're going to edit it. So in this case, we don't want username and password as our form data. Instead, we want to have first name, last name, phone, and city. And then we want to set these to some values. So the default value for these is just going to be an empty string like this. So this is going to be our form data, and then we're going to destructure it. So I'm going to have first name, last name, phone, and city. And then the on change is going to be the exact same. And then for our on submit, we're not doing this login, but instead we're going to do an update profile passing in these fields. And then we have to actually import this. So that's right here. And then we pass in those fields. So first name, last name, phone, and city. And then we also have to make sure our action creator takes these in. So let's go back to our profile action creator and let's pass these fields as parameters. So first name, last name, phone, and city. And then we also have to stringify these and pass them along in our request. So first name, last name, and then phone and city. All right, so now we're actually passing along the data that we need in this put request so that this happens as it should. All right, so now we're gonna need to bring in our global state. So const map state to props state. So we're gonna need our first name, state dot profile dot first name. We're gonna need our last name, phone, and city. Now, one issue we're gonna have right now is that this right here is named the exact same as my local use state here, or this one here. So these right here are named the exact same. So when I bring these in as props, my global state, I'm gonna have a name conflict. So a way I can avoid this is to change this to be something else. So let's change all of these to have an underscore global, let's say. This way I can have these be distinguished. And then I also have to pass in my map state to props and my connect helper and any functions I'm using. So update profile is what I'm using. And then we have to bring all of these in as props. So I can either do props and then do props dot first name global, props dot last name global, or props dot update profile, or I can destructure this props and bring those in individually so I don't have to do things like props dot first name global. Instead, I can just do first name global in my component here. So let's do update profile. That's the function, first name global, and then last name global, phone global, and city global. So now I have access to all of these things inside of my component, and I can use them. All right, so here I'm gonna do class name of container. Gonna have some kind of header that says welcome to your user dashboard, something like that. Gonna have a paragraph, and this will just say something like update your user profile below, and then below here we're gonna have our form. Now the form is gonna have an on submit prop, and then this is gonna have an event, and then we're gonna pass that event to our on submit function as a parameter, because we take a single parameter here, which is this E, and that E is gonna be this event here. Now we're gonna have some form groups. So class name is form-group. And then these form groups are gonna have our label and inputs, and then below these, we're gonna have our button. So this button is just gonna be button primary, and we can have some margin at the top. Type can be submit. And then I'm just gonna have it say update, because we're updating the user profile. So maybe I can even do like update profile, I don't know. Then we're gonna have a label. This is gonna be form-label. First one's gonna be first name. Then we're gonna have our input. And then our input's gonna have a couple fields. So let's see, we're gonna have a class name. This is gonna be form-control. That's the Bootstrap class for styling these inputs. We're gonna have a type of text. And then for our name, we're gonna have first name. And then in my label, I can do HTML4 is also first name. So I have a link between these. Gonna have my on change. We're gonna pass the event to the on change. And then it'll take that event as a parameter, which then we're gonna use to do things like e.target.name is e.target.value. because we're going to have access to these things in that event. And then the value is going to be first name. And then let's see, do we need anything else? Yes, we're also going to need the placeholder. As for the placeholder, I want it to just be the value in the global state. So I can do the first name global. That way I can see that as a placeholder. All right, so this is good for now. Another thing I'm going to want is if we do have some kind of global state, I want it to be within here as the value. But one thing I can't do something like first name global. Otherwise, I won't be able to even change, like I won't even be able to type in here. So basically what I want to do is when I load this dashboard, I want these fields, this first name, last name, phone, and city, to be set to our global state. And then we're going to actually see the value in here. So I'm going to copy this down 3 more times just so I don't have to retype so much. So this next one's going to be my last name. So I'm going to change all these to last name. This next one's going to be my phone. And then this last one's going to be city. There we go. And then let's maybe have a bit of spacing between things. So I can have some like margin top 3. Maybe here as well. Margin top 3. And then maybe a bit of margin at the bottom too. So margin bottom 3. And let's see what we have so far. All right. Open this up, npm run build. And then we'll see where we are at. All right, so that finished building. Now let me go to localhost 8000 because that's where I'm running the server. Let me relog in. Billy with my password and perfect. So I see welcome to your user dashboard, update your user profile below, and then we see all these fields. And right now in my placeholder, I actually see that global state inputted in here. So that looks pretty nice. So now what I want is for these actual, for the values themselves to also be this. And then when I go ahead and delete this, I'll also see the placeholder here. So I think that'll look really nice. I think that looks better than how I had it initially when I was demonstrating this in the overview. So this is the way I'm going to do it. So now this next part is what we're going to tackle. Let me actually close that. So I need so that when this component mounts, that we retrieve our global state and update these values to that global state. So I'm going to need a use effect hook. And then my use effect hook, I'll just put here. And then what I want is set form data. And then I'm going to set these fields. All right, so I'm going to want to do some checks here. So when this loads, I'm going to want to check if first name global doesn't equal empty. Actually, I could just set it to this. Because if it is empty, this will just be empty. Otherwise, it's actually going to have something in here. And then I'm going to have last name global. And then I'm going to have phone. And I'm going to have my city, which are both the global states. So when this mounts, I'm going to set this as so. And then when we log in, so that's in our auth, this is where we do that load user. So now let's go ahead and build this. And let's see what happens. All right, so let's see where we're at. And right now, I don't see that these values are present. I'm going to navigate to home, going to navigate back here, and now I see that they're present. So now, why did this happen? If I go back, I shouldn't have closed that auth action folder. So if we go here, this right here is an asynchronous function. So basically, I'm going to log in. I'm going to be rerouted to my dashboard, but I'm not going to retrieve those values yet. So they're still going to be empty. So I'm going to display here, and then my placeholder is going to change, but my values aren't going to change quite yet. So what I need to do is in my dashboard. Where am I? Yeah, so in my use effect, I basically want to trigger this when these values change to something else. So let's say when my first name global changes, then I can basically trigger a re-render. Yeah, so I think this is the way that I'm gonna actually go ahead and handle this. So if the first name global changes, then I'm gonna update all of these. So I'm gonna build that, and then we're gonna actually see the values in there. So this is gonna trigger a re-render once the global state changes. All right, now let's refresh. And there we go. Now we actually see the values themselves in here. And if I remove this, then I see the placeholder Billy. So I can see what it was. So that's kind of a nice way to do it. So let's change this to something else. So I'll do 321, 321, 4321. So I'll change the phone number and then the city to, let's say, Ottawa. Let's update the profile. And there we go. Now if I refresh, now I'll see these values. So I can maybe have a separate piece of state. And I can call this whatever. Maybe profile updated. Set profile updated. And then I can have this be false. I can have something like this. And then I can trigger a re-render whenever we do our onSubmit. So I can do something like set profile updated to profile updated. So the opposite of profile updated. So this will change my state, which will trigger a re-render. Now let's see what actually happens here. So this looks like it should work. So let's see if it does. Okay, so this built. Now let's go ahead and change this. Update our profile. Now if I remove this, so it worked. But now let me do something like this. Update, quickly remove this. All right, still worked. Update again. So we're triggering these updates. All right. But the way we have this is also kind of iffy. This update profile is an asynchronous function. So to ensure that this works, I can do const, let's see, update profile, async. So I'll create an asynchronous function where I call this, do an await, and then I do this. So this will ensure that this request finishes and then I update. And then I can do update profile. So this is a safer way to ensure that this, in fact, works as it's supposed to. All right, so let's check this out. We refresh, we still have this. I update my profile. There we go. You can see that it's still like it should be. Behaves the exact same way, just it's a slightly safer way to handle this. So I can now update to Toronto. We see that the placeholder is Toronto and the value is also Toronto. So there you go. Now we're able to update our profile. So that's going to be it for this section. And then in the next section, I'm going to basically make it so that this dashboard is a private route, because right now if I log out and navigate, I can go to the user dashboard, but I don't want someone who's not authenticated to be able to navigate here. So I'm going to make sure that this is a private route. So when someone who's not authenticated tries to go here, they're going to be rerouted to the login page. And then I'm also going to implement functionality for deleting a user account. And then I think that's everything in this app. I guess I'll double check if that's everything, but I think that's everything I wanted in this application. So hope you enjoyed this section. Make sure to leave this video a like and subscribe if you enjoy this content. Hit that little notification bell if you want to get notifications whenever a new video is released. Also make sure to click those links in the description if you want to join the Facebook group and the Facebook page. That way if you have any questions regarding any of these projects, or if you have some kind of questions in general on something web development related, then you can go ahead and personally message me and get help from me. So that is everything, and I will see you in the next section.